Hey everybody, this is Sarah TV Russell, and I am here doing an online presentation, little examples of some pranayama for our 200-hour teacher training. So all you need today is your body and your breath, your yoga mat if you want it, and something comfortable to sit on. So we're gonna start on our mats or on the floor. If you're more comfortable in a chair, you're more than welcome to be in a chair, feet flat on the ground, with your booty kind of towards the edge of the chair so you can sit up nice and tall. So we'll go ahead and meet there. And so when we teach pranayama, pranayama is a really important part of a yoga practice. As we know, it is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, and it's probably one of the only other limbs of yoga that's taught in a traditional yoga studio here in the West, where we teach asana classes. Oftentimes they're linked with pranayama, sometimes some meditation as well. And so pranayama becomes that guiding force in connecting the spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. And so our breath is prana, is energy, is life force. And so when we draw in a breath, we're drawing in energy and life force to our body. We're engaging with prana, which is a big part of how we move on the mat. And so when we move with the breath, and we enable our bodies and ourselves to come into a moving state. And so sometimes pranayama is linked directly to a meditation practice, which we've done together. And other times it is how we get from pose to pose. So meditation is something that we can use any time of day, just like the focus on pranayama. So we're only going to go through 3 of our basic pranayamas in 200 hour right now. You've got several more that include visualization. Some are a little bit more complex, but I wanted to give you the 3 basic ones that we use in almost every class, even when the teacher doesn't cue it. So we're going to start with abdominal breathing. Abdominal breathing exercise is just simply finding the awareness to open and expand in the belly. And I want you to take a moment to think about if you've ever seen a baby sleeping, right? So if you've ever seen a baby sleeping, you know that they breathe with their whole body, right? You see everything kind of lift up and soften. And so as we grow, as we age, as we interact in the world, we begin to learn how to not breathe correctly. And we constrict our breathing, we constrict ourselves. It's just the same way where we see kids running around not worried about what they look like, how they are dressed, maybe being super creative, drawing these crazy things, building amazing things out of Legos, and then we conform and we start to fit into a box that society deems us worthy of. And so our breath does the same thing simply by interacting in the world. And so the abdominal breath is a really good tool to check in with ourselves and see how we are breathing. If you are prone to anger, or if patience is not a virtue that you have, such as myself, I find that when I find my abdominal breath, I'm able to pause and get more patience, especially at red lights, if I'm standing in line at the grocery store, things like that. So the abdominal breath is something that we're born with. Children have it, and every time something negative may occur in their life, where they're told that they can't do something, we get a little wince of contraction. So think about it, a baby breathes naturally, full body, watch everything kind of inflate and deflate. The whole chest cavity and body cavity is lifting and expanding with the in-breath and softening and relaxing. It just happens automatically by nature. And then maybe they get to kindergarten and somebody doesn't want to share a swing. And there's this moment of, oh, and then maybe they get to high school and nobody asks them to a school dance. And then there's that other wince, right? Maybe group projects in college, not getting the promotion that you want as you climb the corporate ladder, whatever it is that you're doing. Every time we feel a contraction in our lives, it physically shows up in our body, generally as the breath. So we need to retrain our bodies to come back to abdominal breathing that we had as babies, as infants and children. So the best way to do that is to bring the thumbs together, the fingers together, building like kind of a diamond or a triangle shape. We're gonna place those right on the belly. You can do this on your backs, laying down or seated, whichever feels more comfortable to you. Try to relax the shoulders as much as you can. And when we do this abdominal breath, really important for all pranayama exercises, if we're seated in a meditation seat, to be lifted and lengthened through the spine. So feeling a nice, comfortable seat, being propped up on something. So what I want you to pay attention to is to observe the breath. And now we've been talking about the breath for a while, so maybe you've already kind of started to change and shift it, because as soon as we talk about it, it starts to change. As soon as we pay attention. But I want you to pay attention. Do you breathe up here in the chest, or do you breathe down here in the abdominal area? We're trying to bring the breath back here. A lot of us, when we have anxiety and constriction, frustration, fear in our lives, we breathe up here. And the movement is up here rather than everywhere, right? So with the hands over the belly button, over that solar plexus area, go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths and see if you can expand it. I'm obviously exaggerating here. See if you can expand the belly forward enough and the backside far enough that you start to feel the fingers and thumbs expand away from one another. And when you draw the belly back to the spine, the thumbs and first fingers come back together. So as you inhale, exhale, close your eyes if you'd like. Inhale and exhale. So you'll feel the waistband tightening and expanding each time. Take 2 or 3 more breaths. Now, when we do this in our practice, when we move on the mat, we can do this at any posture. So think about a warrior 1 or a warrior 2 practice, where we expand the rib cage. If we're facing the side of our mat in warrior 2, we're expanding everything in all directions. If we're facing forward, we're expanding everything in all directions with those hips closed. So think about how you can bring this into your practice. If you bring it into the very beginning, where we just let people start to relate to that breath, then it gets a little easier for them to move on the mat with it. Okay, the second breath that we're going to talk about today is going to be the full yogic breath, or the 3-part breath. And so when we do the 3-part breath, it's also called Dirga Pranayama. So it just simply means that we're going to be filling the container of the lungs on the body from the bottom up, right? So it's like we're pouring something into a cup, we fill it up, and then we're drinking from that cup, and then we push it down, okay? So keep that comfortable seat that you're in. If you need to get fidgety, now's a good time to do it. Okay, and then from here, take a deep breath, inhale and exhale. Close your eyes if you'd like to, if you're comfortable. And then I want you to imagine on the next inhale, just filling up about the lower 1/3 of the body. Now, technically, we know that our ribs and our lungs are not down here, but we're breathing to the diaphragm, and seeing if you can really envision that breath pulling to the pelvic bowl. Exhale, release it out. Inhale, bring it up about 2/3 of the way. And release it out. Bring it up all the way through the upper body. And then breathe it out. Okay, so we're gonna go through this just 3 rounds. And take a deep breath. Inhale the lower 1/3, middle third, top third. Pause, hold the breath. And then release the top third. Release the middle, and pull in that lower belly. Do it one more time. Lower third, middle third, top third. Feeling that expansiveness all around and releasing from the top, the middle, and the bottom. You can go ahead and take a couple of rounds there for yourself if you'd like. And it should feel like a really soothing breath. If you feel constriction or tightening in the shoulders and the jaw, see if you can change the breath pattern in some way. Great, so that is our full yogic breath, or Dirga Pranayama, or Dirga breath. And lots of wonderful benefits from that breath as well as the first one. The last breath, and another popular breath, it's been popularized primarily through Ashtanga style yoga, which is where our vinyasa practice comes from, is Ujjayi Pranayama. And so let's back up and talk about what pranayama is. Pranayama is that life force entering and exiting the body, and in Sanskrit, it is pranayama. So we tend to refer to Ujjayi as pranayama, but they're all pranayamas. Any kind of way that you're bringing the breath into the body is your pranayama or your breath work. So Ujjayi Pranayama is a guttural breath. It builds a lot of heat in the body. It's really great for when those poses get a little bit more complex and the body tends to need a little extra boost of energy, and you find a little bit of depth to yourself from the breath. I jokingly refer to this in my classes as that Darth Vader breath. It can be referred to as the ocean breath. But when we're learning it, there's this gentle constriction in the throat that oftentimes comes out as an audible noise. Now, as I've practiced over the last couple of decades, when I first learned the breath, it was a really loud, audible breath. And as I've continued to practice, the idea of that breath being loud and audible and still being that full pranayama for the Ujjayi has shifted a little bit. And so the idea is that we don't want to inflict our practice on anyone else. And so we're trying to stay focused on what we are doing. If there's an audible noise coming out, great. If there's not, great too. I'd love for you to do a little bit of research and see what you find. There's definitely different mixes of schools of thought here. I'm going to teach you an audible version just so that you can hear it a little bit. It's going to be a guttural sensation right at the back of the throat towards the top of the throat, okay? So I want you to take a couple of deep breaths in and out through the nose and then in and out through the mouth. And then through the mouth. Right? Okay, so that Ujjayi breath that we're going to be drawing in is going to be in and out of the nose. Okay, and we'll talk about mouth breathing and nostril breathing in just a moment. But typically, this breath is done through the nostrils. What we do is we inhale the breath through the nose. We build the heat through the constriction in the back of the throat. We draw the breath into the lungs. When we press it out, there's that constriction that if the mouth were open, it would be more of a sigh, a sensation. But the mouth is closed, so it's going to bypass the mouth and go out the nostrils. So we're going to create another little guttural response. It's going to sound something like this. So hopefully you could hear that. Now, I don't like to talk about constriction a whole lot when we're talking about this breath, but it is important that you understand that we're closing up the space just a little bit so that that heated breath has a littler space to move from. And so that's where we get that sensation of energy and fire, okay? So go ahead and practice that a few times. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. This time, constrict the throat. Bring that breath in and out of the nose. You can do that a few more times. And you'll notice if the breath is audible at first, or if you're feeling a little self-conscious and you don't want somebody in the next room to hear you, that's okay. But don't be afraid to make a little bit of noise while you're learning it and really feeling it. When we get deeper into our actual vinyasa or hatha practice and we move on the mat and we need the breath, we'll find that inspiration from the breath. So sometimes, just like if you're lifting weights or climbing a hill on your bike or in a run, you might let out an audible or sigh. That's essentially what we're doing, calling on that Ujjayi breath as we flow on the mat in our practice. So this is by no means an exhaustive list of pranayama. You have a longer list that also includes some visualizations to work with your meditation practice. And there's also a lot more types of pranayama that you can do with your students depending on where you're going in your flow in your class. These are just the three main basic ones for our teacher training, and I'd like you to learn how to teach these in a very comfortable manner so that they just become second nature to you. Every single yoga class should include some sort of meditation or visualization and some breath work or pranayama. I just want to thank you all so much for taking time today to play with me online, and I look forward to seeing you. You can find me at sarahtvrussell.com, and I look forward to seeing you in teacher training. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Namaste.